Welcome to Running It Back, the Tiger Woods edition. I want to bring in Tarlin Ray. There was an old Nike commercial where we were all saying, I am Tiger Woods. Tarlin may have embodied that commercial at different points in his life. He's going to carry me a little bit on this episode because I think he has a depth of Tiger prowess that we want to dive into. Tarlin, how are you doing this morning?
So I'm going to carry you on this episode.
Well, in particular,
we'll talk about that.
Your percentage of carry will be greater.
We'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
We have threatened to do a Tiger show for those longtime listeners for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I struggle to do a Tiger show. You introduced me to a new term in the Serena pod, Stan.
Yeah.
I am a huge Tiger fan.
Yeah.
He is by far my sports hero. Struggled to prep. I struggled to do it because of thinking about all the moments in my life where I had a chance to experience Tiger's greatness and the last 20 years of sports watching and my own personal growth. It's a struggle to cover this guy.
Yeah.
Well, we need to because of the most recent accident, February 23rd. Tiger is in a single car. They deemed it immediately an accident, but he's in a very serious crash. He needs to get extracted from the car. It's clear that he was unconscious. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. But as we do with all of our shows, we want to run it back to a moment in time, less focused on the most recent event, but wanted to run it back to the Masters, his last major win in 2019, and see what we can learn from it. You asked me how I'm doing. I'll say I'm fantastic on this morning.
Yeah.
Fighting a little insomnia, but I slept like a baby last night.
I slept well last night too. That's interesting. Maybe there's something to this because our unconscious was processing Tiger Woods and lessons learned. And then beginning with 2019, and hopefully our listeners have enough Tiger context. There's also quite a few Tiger documentaries out there, which we have watched many of them, and we're going to continue to refer to them because there's quite a span, not just of his career, because you have his whole life documented in a lot of ways, going all the way back to him appearing on the Mike Douglas show when he was 3, and right up to now. And to your point, you almost have a relationship with Tiger that's similar to the relationship you might have with your sports team, but as an individual, because he's been around and he became an institution, he became a brand. But 2019 is really interesting. It's a redemption story because you always want to hear about the comeback. And
Don't call it a comeback. I've been here for years.
Sorry. You gotta keep going. No, I please.
You don't. I can spit, but nope.
Yeah, not yet.
That's for later.
Leave them wanting more. So it's a redemption story. It's also golf is a sport that those of us who get into our middle years appreciate because folks in their 40s can win major titles, and Tiger did this back in 2019. Can you set the stage for this? Talk to me about what was going on heading into Augusta in April of 2019.
Let's set the stage before we get there, because we need to just, granted, HBO 2-part series, HBO Max, just got a documentary on Tiger. We had an ESPN, books on Tiger. Maybe we'll have a part 5 on Tiger over the years.
Yeah.
But really, let's just talk about him as a golfer. From 2000 to 2009, probably the most dominant athlete you've ever seen. He had 169 starts. He made 165 cuts, so that's 97% of the time he made it to the weekend. For those non-golfers, that is a sick stat. It's crazy that he's just always there with an opportunity to not only win, but also make some money. Make the money. He had 56 wins. That's a 33% win percentage. And I'll get to win percentages just in golf so we can make sure you understand sort of how that relates.
Some benchmarking maybe?
We're gonna benchmark. And in 12 wins, 12 major wins out of the 40 times he teed it up. So a 30% win percentage in the majors.
Yeah.
So he is dominant, and including a 2008 win at the US Open on a fractured leg,
Right.
where the next he had to have surgery and also repair his ACL.
Yeah.
So he's king.
Yeah. And that context is easy to forget. Part of why the HBO documentaries are getting more publicity, or more pub, as I like to say, is that they cover the more salacious aspects of Tiger's story. It's a little like the TMZ version of Tiger. Really, since that time, 2009 is when this famously all came to an end with an incident outside of his home.
His first car crash.
Yeah, his first car crash, the one that I forgot how amazing those, I think they're typically Japanese computer generated
simulating the crash.
Exactly. I forgot that was a thing back.
Oh, yeah.
That needs to come back.
Watch how he turned right into the hydrant. Wow.
But then you see
like a 23-mile-per-hour car crash.
And then you see Elin coming back with the golf club in her hand, and there's a fire hydrant and a mailbox. It's brilliant. We'll share it out as part of our show notes, but I forgot that we were doing that so well in 2009. And then the story really begins, right? So what you're talking about is less that dominant period, which to your point, we could absolutely, and we should do more legendary moments in Tiger's career that we learned from, because there's so many of them. There's so many different stories, whether it's his first win at Augusta back in 97, which was similarly epic and put him on the scene, so that when he came back in and won it several more times before 2019, because he's won 5 now.
Correct.
One in 97, and then through this epic run in the 2000s, he picked up 3 more, and then the difficulties began. Can you walk us through that a little bit, Tarlin? Like, so epic run, dominant to a way that seldom been seen for this long in an individual sport, high winning percentage, which is something you're gonna dig back in on.
Let's talk real quick about the winning percentage.
Yeah.
Current players, the Rorys, Dustin Johnsons, Justin Thomas, their lifetime win percentage.
Mm-hmm.
Rory McIlroy 9.6%, Dustin 8%. This means every time they tee it up, what is their chance of winning?
Yeah.
Justin Thomas 7%, Jordan Spieth, who was
the
guy.
He was a bit of a wunderkind.
Yeah. Early in the morning. I don't think I could even pronounce that.
The W, it's
do
German.
One more time.
It's German, so the W's a V. Wunderkind.
Okay, great. Jordan Spieth 7%, Bryson DeChambeau, who looks like he's sucking on helium, and John Rahm 3%, and Brooks Koepka, who was the guy. 5%. So Tiger, in a 10-year run, had a win percentage of 33%.
And I'm just doing the back of the envelope math. Like, that's roughly 1 in 3 tournaments.
That is roughly.
Yeah.
As my daughter is in Algebra 2 honors, she would look at you side-eyed and be like, that's great. Even my 5th grader would say,
yeah,
fantastic. There.
Yeah. But unfortunately, I'm the father of a 2-year-old, so I'm impressing him still.
You are still winning.
Yeah.
You got a few more years to do. In those years, he was that athlete where we thought he was a robot. Tiger is still in a tournament, but he makes a mistake, and you had the gall to say, come on, Tiger.
Yeah.
Or this is a pun, like, why does he always do that? Like, come on, why can't he finish?
Right.
But the dude had a 33% win percentage. Now at 44,
right,
closer to 22. Mm-hmm. And the only comparison, Jack, at the similar age of 44 had a 16%.
Wow. Yeah.
So there's a lot more information.
Yeah.
You can go down all the coaches he had, the Butch Harmons and the Hank Haney's and Foley's. We can talk to the caddies.
Yeah.
Williams and Fluff and Joe LaCava he has now. But let's just put a book in on that decade. That is just dominance.
Yeah. And it's a reminder, just in terms of lessons learned, that when folks talk about golf, they frequently say, you're not really competing with others, you're competing with yourself, and you're competing with the course. And to perform at this level and to separate this much from everyone else, there's so much to be learned from the performance psychology that goes into that. And there's a lot that also potentially is tied to how he was raised. And that's why I would say if you can watch one of the two HBO Max documentaries, I'd say watch the first one, which
One's
is
more G-rated, the other one gets a little spicy.
but it's also one's more, we know he had a bad turn from 2009 to 2019 in many ways. A lot of rebound lately, but there was a bad stretch in there, and there were even fits and starts in his redemption story. But I felt like the second HBO documentary was really a lot of what you would see on TMZ or what you would read on the pages of the Inquirer. It wasn't even in terms of lessons learned. It's yes, things can go bad, and the paparazzi and the media are terrible. And Tiger had to battle a lot of personal demons in addition to the physical stuff he had to overcome. But that's really what we're setting up for leading into 2019. Can you walk us through that a little bit?
If you're going to any lessons learned from the first decade,
Yeah.
Malcolm Gladwell it and say 10,000 hours.
Yeah.
That's what Tiger did.
Right.
That's how you're dominant.
And just real quick on that point, since you brought it up, 10,000 hours, the work of Anders Ericsson, where the concept is deliberate practice.
We're talking about practice?
We're talking about deliberate practice, which means you're focusing on your performance and you're focusing on specific things so that you're getting more feedback by doing the reps. So there's an important distinction there where you're actually doing it in a way that is focused on improving your performance. So Tiger, I don't think Gladwell hit that as well as he could. So I think Tiger nailed that one 350 yards right down the middle of the fairway. Is if you prepare in a very deliberate way, focusing on your improvement, you can reach untold excellence, and it's going to require you to almost decouple your North Star from the rest of the field, because he really broke through into the stratosphere and separated in a way that we really haven't seen in golf. So yes, on all that. Now let's get into the difficulties.
2010 to 2019. Let's just look at it as a golfer.
Yeah.
64 less starts. So we'll talk about that. 105 starts. He made 87 cuts. Mm-hmm. So he went from a 97%, always making a week, into 83%.
And I would say 83 still pretty good. Yeah.
Pretty good. 10 wins. So now he's plummeted from a 33% win percentage to a 9. And then if you remember 10 minutes ago, talking about the legends in golf today, he's still on top.
Yeah. But he's back in range, right? He's
back in range.
He's a mere mortal.
But still the number one guy.
Yeah.
And one major win, which we'll talk about 2019. So he has a 2.5% major win percentage.
Yeah.
Now, we have to also add in, we know that he had the single car crash 2009. He went to rehab for sex addiction. His marriage was torn apart. And then realized in that period, it really started 2008, but from 2010 through 19, 5 back surgeries.
Yeah.
Multiple moments where he paused on the tour because of Achilles pain.
Yeah.
And you don't want to mess with Achilles.
Yeah.
For those longtime fans of the show know about my Achilles recovery. By the way, I just had my 1-year Achilles birthday.
Talk about a comeback story. That's a separate episode of Running It Back to talk about your rehab, but that's a whole nother thing.
We learn about things like microdiscectomy surgeries on back, neck pain, back fusions. Mm-hmm. So this is all happening with Tiger. Then in 2017, we have another car incident where Tiger has fallen asleep on the side of the road. Mm-hmm. He has that famous Tiger mugshot where he looks like got the 1,000-yard stare and looks like he is not necessarily has been drinking, but definitely taking prescription drugs, because he had just had rested in April, just rested in May, but just had a back surgery in April. Mm-hmm. So Tiger is a shell of himself. Tiger, and this is the moment where my dad, others like, I wish Tiger would quit.
Yeah.
He's never going to win again. Never going to win another major. And that's why I believe 2019, at least in our lifetime, is so significant. Now, if you want to compare it to any comeback, you can talk about Ben Hogan.
Right.
So most people don't know the Ben Hogan story. We're back February 2, so another February moment,
Hmm.
1949.
Hmm.
He's in a major car crash with his wife,
Right.
head-on collision with the Greyhound
Mm.
bus.
Okay, good. You paused after you said Greyhound, so I was like, how bad could it be? I mean, it's gonna be tough. It's tough for the dog, sure, but yeah, please.
Greyhound bus,
Yes.
head-on collision, foggy road, where they know they're about to get hit. No seatbelts, and he dives across
Oh wow.
the front seat to protect his wife.
Hmm.
He's crushed, left side of his body crushed. You know, trouble with his left, this vision. He goes on to win, comes back, goes on to win 12 more times and 6 majors.
Wow. Yeah.
We know the comeback story, but we've never seen, and granted, he was a hero to the world, but never seen someone like Tiger have to live in the public eye, failing,
Yeah.
Tiger's words. Still, remember, 9% win percentage. So the number one, he'd be the number one win percentage in a decade, but failing in the eyes of the world
Yes.
for a 10-year period prior to that Masters win.
Right. Yeah. And then beyond that, there's a lot in the news now about what else was going on in this difficult time for him, including his preoccupation with the Navy SEALs, combat trainings, a lot of really, again, tabloid type stuff that you can get into where he was battling his demons. He was divorced. He had some substance issues. He had a sex addiction. He was
Lost his father, who was his compass.
Yeah, his best friend they talked about in some interesting ways, and we're going to come back I think on a later show, talk about parenting and what you can learn from stories like Tiger and the Williams sisters, even Naomi Osaka. There's a lot to think about around parenting.
What about the balls? Don't forget.
Oh, and the balls, exactly. And LeVar, yeah, LeVar Ball, friend of the show, perhaps he either is or he isn't. The other thing that happened in that window though too is there were always those, is it happening again? It was almost like in 2013, he made the cut at Augusta and he's 6 strokes from the lead on Saturday, whatever it is. And then people are like, you get a text from, is he going to do it? Is he back? And it would always, not always, but for the most part, the answer was no, because the focus was mainly on the majors and mainly on his pursuit of Nicklaus. Early, in 2009, had things not gone awry, he was in range to pick up a couple more majors in that 10-year span, but instead that was it. And then you understand why, for all the reasons why. But then as he's getting older, and by the time 2019 rolls around, Father Time is saying, undefeated. Scoreboard, look at how old you are, Eldrick Taunt, aka Tiger Woods, taunting him, taunting Taunt. Did you know his middle name is actually Taunt, T-O-N-T?
That can't be accurate.
That was, it was, I could see it right here on
Wikipedia.
It's Wikipedia, and it's in bold too. It's not like somebody just wrote it.
Right.
It's been there for a little while.
I want to make sure it's six, so I'm going to bold it.
Exactly. He would have been closer to Jack over that span had he not been diverted and had his life interrupted and all the physical and psychological and emotional turmoil that brought him back down to the pack. But then 2019 was exciting. Even leading into it, there was a run up where he was starting to get his stuff together. And then people were still doing that thing where it's Sunday, he's still in contention. And then 2019, the way in which he won in 2019, it was almost the apotheosis of all that, in that the other competitors wilted around him. They all choked because of Tiger's just presence and psychological mind share, which was also reflected in this past week when, after his injury, after his car crash, all of the players on Sunday were wearing Tiger's classic red polo shirt and black pants. It's always black pants too, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You were going to say something.
Yeah. Well, a couple things. You're right. Tiger coverage is over the top. I could always log in and find it's like the featured hole, and Tiger would be one of the featured people, and he's 8 strokes back with no chance. And it's like teeing off at 7:55 in the morning, and he'll never be on primetime coverage. We started to have a little hope really, this is a year after surgery, a year and a little bit, because he came in second in the PGA Championship, the Brooks Koepka, that August or the year before. So imagine this is the first major after that. And Tiger is going into the final round, 2 shots back, where the rap on Tiger is, unless he's leading, he can never come back.
Mm-hmm.
And you got the Francisco Molinaris and the Brooks Koepka and the Patrick Cantleys and the Shuffleys and the Tony Finau's.
And Dustin Johnson got into the mix a little bit.
Dustin Johnson, and anyone can, and there's Tiger. And so he's 2 shots back. Because of rain, they're playing in like a 3-pack instead of playing in a twosome. Francisco Molinari, literally, it's like a robot. Like he hasn't missed a thing. Gets to 12, dumps his ball in the water, ends up on 15, hits a tree, gets in the water again.
Yeah.
And Tiger just starts methodically not missing,
grinding,
literally grinding, get in the middle of the green, and people around, as you said, are just starting to crater.
Uh-huh.
And you can feel the groundswell energy, emotion around Tiger while he is just, it's while you say it's like the past, but he's a different Tiger because he's just trying to play to spots that he can play as old man Tiger versus overpowering the course.
Yeah.
And so for him to finish, to see everyone wilt around him, to see the joy on his face, but then also think back to the celebration he has and the hug he has with his dad, but they'll have that moment with his kids. It's everything.
Yeah.
And so if the first 10 years are about the 10,000 hours and him being a robot, I appreciate the last 10 years even more because life isn't easy. Tiger's not a robot. Tiger's a human being. He's complicated. He's a Cablinasian as a black man. That created conversation. Oprah. My family.
Yeah, I'm sure.
He's not the Jordan. He's got some interesting buddies that he golfs with. Number 45 and stuff like that. So I treasure that moment more than anything else. And especially more because when Rory, after the accident this week, talked about Tiger, he said, first, he's not dead. He's really hurt. And we should make sure, and our heart goes out to the family, his kids, and make sure he's okay.
Yeah.
If he never plays golf again, he's had such an outsized impact on this game and will continue to. And we owe everything to him. But more importantly, he said, most people don't realize what he had to go through to even come back to be competitive in 2019, because he had lunch with Tiger after his back fusion surgery in 2017. He could barely stand up.
Yeah.
And so what I appreciate even more is the fact that these heroes, these people that we look up to, that we expect every Sunday or every NBA game or every Sunday in NFL to always be present.
Yeah.
We just miss out on the work that it takes to get to that point, the failures and the adversity and obstacles that are in front of you. And I feel like that message is even more powerful than take a 2.5% win percentage over 10 years versus the 10 years of him dominating. It just means more to me.
Right. Yeah. And I think it also means more in that he finally did come back to the apex. He did get back to the top of the mountain back in 2019, which is not too long ago. And he was still seemed to be entering a new phase in his career where maybe he might have done it again, at least if you're thinking about Augusta or some of the places where, if you know that course, you could be in contention for quite some time. I mean, that's really the history of that course, among others, but Augusta in particular, because they're always playing it at the same course every year. You would have imagined Tiger into his late 40s, continuing to compete in Augusta, making the cut at Augusta, I would imagine consistently. And now we don't know again. And I think especially the nature of these injuries, it sounds like they could be career ending. And that's where we don't know. But I think the work is ahead of Tiger regardless, just to go through the rehab that you were just referencing, even in your own life. So it's been a year since your Achilles. There's work just to get back to doing the normal things. And then for Tiger, you would imagine among those normal things would be golf. And then over time, could there be more golf in his future? Maybe, but at what level will it be at? I think at this point, many of us think this might be the end of his competitive golf career, which again is not nearly as important as anything else, whether it's, him, his family, all that, his health, and his future. But it does make you think even more about 2019 because that may have been his last championship. It reminds me when we were talking about Serena, for these individual athletes who have these incredible runs, you don't know when it is their last, but as you get closer, you start wondering, what if this was their last? I think there is a point to reflect on the entire oeuvre of Tiger's career. I feel like my appetite for one has been properly whetted, but can you conclude for
Yeah,
us? Can you bring it together?
a couple of thoughts. One, Tiger, get well. In the same way you learned about any medical term makes me queasy, but comminuted open fracture, upper and lower portions of tibia and fibula bones stabilize, breaks in your ankle. Like when you hear that, it just sounds devastating. Get well.
Yeah.
One. Two, don't listen to anyone who has not had to do the work. So in terms of, you need no one's permission to, whenever it is, tee it up again. And either you're going to look like Tiger of old, the 2000 to 2009, the Tiger of 2010 to 2019, or the big double barrel to everyone, I'll be the Tiger of now.
Yeah.
But no one knows the work you went through to try to do the thing that you love. And screw everyone that says Tiger should hang it up. So I want to end with my ode to Tiger.
Yeah.
I want to thank you for being my hero. I want to thank you for giving me permission, who didn't pick up a golf club until I was 19, to play anywhere. Country club, show up, lone black guy on the course. And I love red, so I definitely wore that there. I want to thank you for giving me something to do on a Sunday where I'm glued to the TV, just hoping that's one of those 56% chance of you winning. I want to thank you for allowing me to have my shorthand text with my best friends where I just write on a Thursday, -4, should we have hope? I want to thank you for your failures and recovery. I want to thank you for being a doting dad to your kids. I love seeing it. I want to thank you for being human. You're not a robot. I want to thank you for being complicated. We can get into that later. I want to thank you for shanking and flubbing on TV when you were in the 2010s, 2019s, because it's like, that's the way I play golf. I want to thank you for your dad pride in Sam and Charlie and watching you play a father-son with Charlie and just how much you loved it and you cared less about your game. I want to thank you for your terrible balding head. I got a receding. My girls still talk about my hairline. Is it always like that? Did it ever come? Because it seems like it's going farther and farther back. I want to thank you for your bad pleated pants look. The red shirt was fine, but really oversized.
Yeah.
The pleated black pants, it's terrible when you look back.
They're almost a little baggy too. Yeah.
Oh, baggy, totally. I had the same. I thought I was an XL my whole life. It's they're twice the size. I want to thank you for being a little Urkel, a little Jordan, and a little Obama at the same time. I want to thank you for giving us something to talk about in the Black community when we were hanging out with Trump. When you say Cablinasian, the Denny's waitress, and for going #1 in the Dave Chappelle race draft. I want to thank you for my long-standing Halloween costume. I want to thank you for always being called Tiger if I walked into a country club, because that's what they thought that was cute, my name. And ultimately, I want to thank you for winning in 2019, because it brought me joy, and I could actually show my kids my sports hero.
Damn, Tarlin, that's said beautifully. We'll clip that. We'll send that one directly to Eldrick and his family, because I think that they may appreciate what you just imparted there. Great stuff. I think we'll probably come back, talk some more Tiger, but you at least got your time to share those words, and then we'll be back again soon. Any final thoughts?
Stay tuned. We have more coming. 2021, we'll be running it back. And we appreciate all of you that have reached out, texts, emails, saying how much you love the show. Tell your friends. We love doing this.